Have you ever wondered how the world's economies have evolved over time? Well, buckle up, as we're about to embark on a fascinating journey, charting the changing fortunes of nations over the last century and a quarter. Our key measure here is gross domestic product, or GDP. Think of it as a nation's economic scorecard, a measure of all the goods and services it produces in a year. It's a handy yardstick for comparing economies, and it's been doing this job since the late 19th century. So let's rewind back to 1896. The world was a different place then, with colonial empires holding vast swaths of the globe. The top dogs, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, their economies fueled by the wealth of their colonies and their industrial prowess at home. But as we move into the 20th century, we see a shift. The United States, a relatively young nation, begins to flex its economic muscles. Its vast natural resources and burgeoning industries propel it up the GDP rankings. By the time we hit the Roaring Twenties, the US has leapfrogged its European counterparts to take the top spot. Meanwhile, in the East, another power is rising. The Soviet Union, formed in the aftermath of the Russian Revolution, embarks on a rapid program of industrialization. Its GDP begins to climb, though it's still some way behind the leading pack. So we see the first half of the 20th century as a period of transition. The old colonial powers are still in the mix, but new players are emerging, driven by industrial growth and political ambition. The stage is set for a seismic shift in the world's economic landscape. But of course, this is just the beginning of the story. As we move towards the mid-20th century, the world economy begins to witness dramatic changes. In the aftermath of the Second World War, which countries emerged as economic superpowers? Let's delve into this fascinating chapter of history. As the dust of war settled, three nations rose to prominence on the global economic stage: Japan, Germany, and the United States. Each of these countries had a unique journey, marked by resilience, innovation, and strategic geopolitical maneuvering. Japan, once devastated by war, transformed into a roaring economic machine. From the ashes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the land of the rising sun embarked on an unprecedented journey of recovery. Fueled by a hard-working populace and wise leadership, Japan rapidly industrialized, becoming a global leader in electronics, automobiles, and steel production. Meanwhile, Germany, another war-torn nation, experienced its Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle. The driving force behind this recovery was the introduction of a new currency, the Deutsche Mark, which stabilized the economy. Germany quickly emerged as the powerhouse of Europe, excelling in various sectors including automotive, engineering, and chemicals. Across the Atlantic, the United States was flourishing. The nation was largely unscathed by the war, which left it in a prime position to become a dominant economic force. Advancements in technology, a booming population, and the birth of the consumer society all contributed to the United States' rise. With the dollar becoming the world's reserve currency, America's influence extended beyond its borders. The post-war period was a time of rapid change. Industrialization and technological innovation were the engines driving these economies forward. The transistor, the microchip, the internet, these breakthroughs transformed industries and fueled economic growth. Moreover, geopolitical factors played a critical role. The Marshall Plan, for instance, helped rebuild Western Europe, while the Cold War shaped alliances and economic policies. So as we neared the end of the 20th century, Japan, Germany, and the United States had firmly established themselves as economic superpowers. But the world was not done changing. As we crossed into the 21st century, the world was poised for another economic shakeup. Who are the economic giants of the 21st century? As we crossed the threshold into the new millennium, the global economic landscape began to shift dramatically. The first 2 decades of the 21st century have been marked by the rise of new economic titans and the continued strength of some familiar powerhouses. At the forefront, we see the meteoric rise of China. Stoking the flames of its phenomenal growth was a combination of factors, including massive domestic investment, an unprecedented manufacturing boom, and a strategic opening to foreign trade and investment. By the second decade of the century, China had surpassed Japan to become the world's second-largest economy. Meanwhile, the United States has maintained its position as the world's largest economy, though its share of the global GDP pie has slightly decreased. The country's economic resilience is largely attributed to its capacity for innovation, particularly in the realm of digital technology. The advent of the internet and the digital revolution
have spurred the growth of tech giants like Apple, Google, and Amazon, contributing significantly to the nation's GDP. The third titan to emerge in the 21st century is India. The country has made impressive strides in economic liberalization since the early 1990s, but it was in the 2000s that it truly began to emerge as a global economic player. The IT industry has been a key driver of India's economic growth, with cities like Bangalore becoming known as the Silicon Valley of India. These developments didn't happen in a vacuum. They were shaped and facilitated by powerful global trends, such as globalization and the spread of digital technology. Increased connectivity has made it easier for goods, services, and ideas to flow across borders, creating new opportunities for economic growth and development. So, as we look back on the past 2 decades, we see a world that has been transformed by the rise of new economic titans. In the past century, we have seen the world economy transform in ways that would have been unimaginable in 1896.
So, what does this journey through time tell us about our world? It tells us that economies, like the tides, are ever moving and changing. We've witnessed the dramatic rise and fall of nations and how the mantle of economic power shifts with time. In our dive into the past, we've seen the United States, China, and India become the top 3 countries by GDP. The United States, with its bold innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, China, with its rapid industrialization and massive population, and India, with its booming tech sector and growing middle class. This shift in economic powerhouses wasn't a game of chance. It was driven by factors such as technological advancements, policy changes, and demographic shifts. It's a testament to the dynamism of our global economy. The world economy is a dynamic, ever-changing landscape, and who knows what the next century will bring. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be an exciting ride.